Guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. In this video, I'm going to be looking into the question, is this connection over or will you hear from this person again? There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Carnelian pyramid. Group 2 is the Citrine pyramid. And group 3 is the Lapis Lazuli pyramid. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, group 1. You chose the Carnelian pyramid. So let's see, is this connection over with the person on your mind, or is there the ability to reconcile? Will you hear from them again? Okay, so we have poverty, family room, and house. So with this house energy, I'm hearing playing house. So it may be that this person is in another connection with someone. They may have moved in with someone, or this could be somebody that is just used to like an ever revolving door of connections. This is somebody who claims to want partnership. They claim to want love, and yet they push it away when they experience that. They may feel most comfortable within shallow connections. It's the sense of like, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And that feels to be kind of a principle that has applied to this person's outlook on love prior to you coming into their life. You experienced some of that firsthand, but it feels like there have been other people that have kind of fallen into that trap with this person where they've caught feelings, things seem to be going well, and then this person may be a master of like pulling the rug out from under others. There's a sense that they've got like a poverty mindset or a lack mentality, somebody that may kind of hide that behind an overinflated ego, where they think that they're the catch. They think that they're the cat's meow, that nobody's like good enough for them. There may also be a really high standard that their own family sets. This may be somebody who is used to kind of attracting in connections that are just sort of satisfying on like a surface level, but nobody meets the approval of family members that may have a lot of influence, a lot of power over this person. There may be kind of financial manipulation that goes on where their family may be very choosy as far as who this person partners up with. That there's a sense that they may have discussed this situation with family members. You might have met this person's family members and this connection was given like a thumbs down. It did not get that seal of approval. And so it feels like this though is something where like nobody that they've ever brought home is considered good enough. Nobody is kind of like welcomed within that sort of family unit. And so this person is kind of like used to that habitual sort of disappointment where it feels like their feelings for you were genuine for whatever that's worth, at the time when you were in connection with one another, but it feels like something that they've sort of pushed this situation away. And at this current moment in time, there's almost the energy of like, I can't circle back around and try to have a fresh start with you. it's easier to kind of just move on to the next situation. That doesn't mean they're finding wish fulfillment with someone else. It's like another circumstance of just kind of playing house that it feels like will inevitably kind of end up in the same situation. This is somebody that, will kind of, the circumstance they may be in will run its course. Whoever they're talking to at this particular point in time, when they bring them home to meet mom and dad, or, kind of like share that news about, I think I've met someone, I think it's going really well. It feels like something that this is kind of the pattern, that nobody's good enough. Nobody adds up. Nobody matches up. And so it feels like at this particular point in time, this is something, again, where this person's like stuck in a karmic loop that requires them to really assert themselves, go against what their family kind of approves of. But they, in order like for themselves to sort of have a different kind of life and fight, for the kind of love that would actually be good for them, or to fight for a connection with you, but it doesn't really feel like they're at that place in their reality. It's kind of just easier to be like the perpetual bachelor, or the perpetual bachelorette. So let's get a little bit more and see what else you need to know about this. Okay, we have abandon worry, tell a new story, and make space for change. Yeah, so this is the energy of somebody that left you before you could leave them. Something where they don't really have an ability at this particular point in time to lay down roots with somebody, in a way that it seemed like you were building towards with one another in the past. It may be something where they have kind of surrendered to the process of like, okay, nobody that I can sort of find of my own accord meets my family's approval or fits in with that kind of vision of success, or, things that would be kind of like socially acceptable in a way. So this may even be somebody that has kind of turned that over to family members. They're letting people play matchmaker for them. They're seeking connections that are kind of recommended to them by the people that assert this control. Maybe it's like psychological control or like financial control in some sort of way. This is somebody who's not in a position to like follow their heart at this particular point in time. So it definitely may be time for you to kind of close the book on this situation and sort of look at this as, rejection as kind of divine protection. It feels like whatever this kind of family dynamic is, or whatever this kind of like poverty mindset that this person has is, if you were to continue forth, like if they were to come back around, you were to try again, or the situation had progressed forward in some capacity, it feels like something that you would be tangled in the middle of like a very toxic situation. It might have seemed good on the surface, but it's like if you had kids with this person or you married this person, you would see firsthand kind of the dynamics going on behind closed doors. And as somebody that would like have married into this situation, it's almost like you've been spared by not kind of linking yourself up to this circumstance, because it's a sense of almost like you might have not been celebrated as like a welcomed addition to the family. It might have always been something based on kind of how this person is maybe played by other people in the family, or, kind of whatever that dynamic is. There's a sense that this person was maybe just sort of looking for a doormat, looking for someone who would kind of just stay silent, keep the peace. The fact that you have your own mind, you got your own ideas, you got your own sort of, way of living your life. In some way it conflicts with like established traditions within this person's dynamic, or even in terms of like a life you could have created with one another, and how that would have reflected the pattern of what they learned growing up. It's like you almost as much as this hurts, that it feels like this connection is most likely over. You're encouraged to kind of move forward, but it's a sense of like, if you'd gotten what you wanted in this situation, it would have turned out to be a very tangled mess. It would have been like living in a nightmare with this person. Whatever kind of charm they exuded, whatever sort of attracted you to one another on a deeper level, it's like there was more going on than meets the eye, or how this person was able to show up, or again, like what you would have been sort of dragged into. It wouldn't have been something that would have been very fulfilling, especially if you had kids with this person. Like, this would have been something where you would have had that kind of entanglement. You would have been sort of bound to this family dynamic, this toxic situation. There may have even been something where you would have been made out to be a scapegoat in this situation. And so it's kind of almost for your highest good that this circumstance is over, because this person is kind of just, they're on to that kind of next thing. Even if they're single at this particular point in time, again, there's a sense of like they're just kind of orbiting around this energy of like lower vibrational connections, or things that don't really, like love being a factor at the bottom of the list of qualifications that they're looking for. This is somebody who's just maybe kind of basing things on materialism. They're just basing things on how it looks. There may have been a lot of love between the two of you, a lot of chemistry, a lot of raw emotion that could have almost scared this person, or like, yeah, that's not acceptable. Within the family unit, people don't marry for love. They marry for like social status, or out of like a sense of being obligated. They get trapped with other people, and it kind of breeds resentment. So it's almost like you brought something very high vibration to this person's life that was very outside of the ordinary. And it's something that at this point in their reality, they're almost not brave enough, courageous enough, and that may be something that they're likely stuck in, for this lifetime, is where they're not like following their heart. They're just kind of like, okay, well, how does this look to other people? How does this kind of, keep me in position within this sort of family unit or this family dynamic? Like, what do other people think? Or how is the connection with somebody that I choose? How's that going to like make me look better? Not like, how does it feel, but like, how do we sort of boost one another up socially or financially? This is like a very ego-based individual. And so it feels like they are kind of like looking towards other things. And again, it may serve you to kind of try to close this out, sort of grieve this situation, or wrap up your process of grieving what has occurred, and kind of set your sights towards something else. So let's get a couple message cards and just see kind of anything that this person wants you to know, anything else you need to know about this. Okay, we have karmic ties. I know I need to release attachments with karmic people. I am creating a plan to leave him or her. Yeah, so this person is wrapped up in their own kind of cycle of karma at this particular point in time. They may definitely be with another karmic partner. And that could even be something that, is a very short-lived situation. It feels like this is somebody who kind of pushes away true wish fulfillment in the interest of just kind of like, how does this meet sort of surface level goals that I have? Somebody that may be looking for like a trophy wife, or, like a sugar daddy for a husband, something like that, where it's not really based on any kind of depth or intimacy, but more just on kind of like, what can I get? How can this serve me? And so, with that in mind, it may be something that like the dynamic between the two of you, what you were bringing to the table, what you were asking for, what you were expecting. You may have had to set some boundaries with this person, or you might have been very honest about your feelings and your desires and intentions. And it's almost something that they looked at it like in a transactional sense, like a business deal, and didn't feel that it benefited them. That they weren't the one kind of getting the most advantage out of this. This may be somebody who's not really capable of emotional reciprocity with others, and so it feels like they've pushed this situation away. or have kind of closed the door to the idea of reconciliation, because it's just safer to either have, connections, like temporary connections with people, people that are easier to manipulate or control, people that aren't as independent, maybe aren't as intelligent as you, or, as intelligent as them, something that kind of just is like a showpiece is kind of what they're looking for. We also have, we need to wait for divine timing. Time is healing our wounds and creating the perfect conditions for our reunion. Yeah, so it feels like this is something that it may be like in a future lifetime, there could be the possibility to like revisit this situation, but it feels that like time's up on this circumstance right now. This person had the opportunity to follow their heart as far as, kind of working through that fear, fear of what other people would think, or, whatever sense of like woundedness or lack within them has caused them to sort of mistrust the idea of love and just sort of seek out practical connections, people that they could like build with on a material level, but nothing that was too, like touchy-feely, nothing that was too like emotional or dramatic in terms of like they were feeling sort of surges of love. It feels like that's this person's kryptonite, is the idea of actually feeling things emotionally for other people. This is something where they may have been trained to kind of like mistrust their feelings, shut that down, kind of like think in a logical sense. And so the fact that, there might have been like genuine connection, genuine feelings stirring for you, that could have been the moment when they pushed you away, when it got kind of too hot to handle and they had to drop this connection or discard this connection and move in another way. It feels like so far this person is making the choice to remain loyal to that kind of karmic wound, not look at it, not address it. It's just easier to kind of like stuff it away and seek out things that fulfill the ego rather than, fulfill them at like a soul level. And we also have, there are messages being exchanged through music and movies. Listen carefully and trust what you hear. Yeah, so this is kind of giving the energy of somebody that has been programmed or conditioned to mistrust love, to look at love as a weakness, or, feeling very vulnerable in your presence because there was like an urge in the past to open up, to surrender to this connection, to trust their heart with you. And it may be something where they've been programmed by their upbringing, by people around them that were very pessimistic towards love. Love is a weakness. Love's going to get you hurt. Love's going to get you used or taken advantage of. This could be somebody that had like a substantial heartbreak in the past, like somebody that they were really in love with. They never healed that wound. And so they continue to kind of walk through life, that anything that gets near that territory of feeling deeply is immediately deeply suspect as far as they are concerned. So this is something that this would require this person to kind of self-reflect, to stand up for themselves in some way, kind of go against the grain of what's expected of them, especially if they're kind of tied to a very karmic family, very kind of rigid traditions or a certain expectation. There's like an image that they're trying to protect or present to others that for whatever reason, whether it was, the feelings that just felt too much, or who you are as a person might have been very different from what they were kind of taught to sort of bring into the household or align themselves with in order to build a successful life with another person. Whatever the case is, it feels that it goes against the grain of people that they may be forced to be loyal to for financial reasons. Maybe this has to do with inheritances. This could have to do with people that, work in a family business, or even just psychologically never have really claimed their independence. They've just sort of done what mommy and daddy wanted them to do. They've gone according to, the tried and true path that people around them have been walking, what society expects of them. And for whatever reason, this love between the two of you, or this connection between the two of you in the past, for obvious reasons or things that might not be so obvious, it almost threatened that status quo, to where it's like they needed to push this away in order to conform or to maintain that conformity with some kind of idea that's been impressed upon them as far as what they should be looking for in the person that they choose to have by their side, versus what is something that is like not acceptable within that criteria. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got A, O, T, X, K, V, B, R, C, I, C, and E. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Citrine pyramid. So let's see, is this connection over between you and the person on your mind, or is there an ability to reconcile with them? Is there a possibility that you can move forward together? Okay, we have distant horizons, mature man, and wealthy man. So this indicates that time and space is actively at this point in time in the process of healing wounds within this person. And I'm hearing I wasn't ready for you. With this energy of mature man and wealthy man, it feels like you're this person's wish fulfillment. You're somebody that, or like the kind of person that they anticipated they would meet further along in their life journey. So they may have had some kind of idea about, I need to get my money right. I need to be more established within my career. I have certain goals that I need to reach, and then I will look for love. And you almost plopped in their lap sooner than anticipated, or they encountered you and it was sort of like, whoa, this is exactly the kind of person that I'm looking for. But something within them sort of felt like they weren't good enough for you, or you deserved more than they could offer you in the past. And so it feels like something that they are in this process of kind of healing that wound, that kind of aspect within where they almost sort of felt that like their worthiness of being loved equated with their ability to like provide a certain lifestyle. There's a sense of them feeling that this love connection, or the bond that you share, it's not something that hinders or interferes with other sort of goals and dreams that they have in life, but there's a sense of kind of like, we can still sort of work towards those bigger goals and dreams together, and it doesn't need to be something where, okay, I reach this finish line and then I can welcome love in. So this is somebody that it feels like maybe slowly making their way back towards you. They may have plans or intentions to reach out with like a very thorough explanation of their conduct in the past. They may have been on quite an adventure or a journey, and yet they've not been able to kind of forget you or this connection. They are seeing things clearly that you're like, even though there's distance, even though you're apart, you're this person's anchor. You're this person's rock. You remind this person of who they really are and what they really want in life. And so they may have let these other kind of goals, or, something that was kind of like they were trying to model their life after a process of somebody that they admire, someone that may have had to really like almost be a self-made man, or somebody that might have had to really start from very nothing, or start from, you know, very little, and kind of build up that success, and then encountered the love of their life. This is something that this person, so this could be like a mentor, like a father figure, you know, or even just kind of some idea that like maybe other people around them, this is sort of what has happened. This is how things have worked out. But there's a sense that they want you with them. They want this connection to reopen, or for there to be kind of even like an understanding between the two of you, that even though they may have other things that are like a priority at this time that they're trying to build towards, they're trying to evolve into, that they don't want to let this situation go. They want to be a support system for you in like a practical way, or maybe even like a financial way, or at least want to have that stability within themselves, that they feel good about who they are and can kind of show up not in this energy of like I'm just eking by, or I'm, you know, still trying to find my way in the world or establish myself, but like I feel good about what I've accomplished, even if I'm not at that kind of like big goal, even if I'm still sort of in the process of accumulating, acquiring, building, developing certain things, that it's almost like you and this connection and love is something which only sort of enhances the experience for them of this process, or they've created enough of a foundation within themselves, they're closer to certain goals, or they've maybe reconfigured that in some way, or they've gotten advice from someone they trust, maybe that father figure, that mentor, that person they look up to, is kind of like, hey, if you've found love, you don't push that away. It doesn't matter if it comes in sooner than you expected. You know, why wait? You can build with somebody by your side, and then you'll know that person really loves you, as opposed to someone that just kind of comes in when you got all your ducks in a row. That the more valuable connection is the person that's like with you through the struggle. And so that's something where it feels like it's turning this person's attention back towards you and this situation, where again, there may be something that they want to kind of like bring towards you that'll show you like, this is who I become in our absence from one another, or this is what I'm working towards. This is something to where I want to grow and evolve beside you. I don't want to just kind of wait till I'm this best version of myself, or this perfect version of myself, before I prioritize holding on to what we have. Or, you know, I see now that it's important to like build upon that, as opposed to these other things that I've felt within myself I needed to do, and I needed to accomplish, and I needed to become, in order to like feel good about myself, or to feel that like I've lived a very well-rounded life. So let's see what else you need to know about this. Okay, we have bubble your boundaries, go dark, and court the feminine. Yeah, so this is somebody that wants to come back in and romance you, win your heart. They don't just want this connection to be something that is like lost in time, like lost in space, sort of, you're almost the one that got away for this person. And there's a sense of like, I don't want to just have time continue to pass and we become even, you know, like we're strangers to one another in a way. So it's maybe somebody you haven't seen in a while, or you've been disconnected from each other for a while. But it's a sense of like, I don't want us to become totally unknown to one another. It's like they still feel you in the silence, in this kind of like, everything's gone dark. There's no communication between the two of us. They're just having to like feel in the dark, feel intuitively. There's almost like they're protecting you from some aspect within, where they may be having to kind of like push through a little bit of like pride and ego, because it's almost like somebody who made the wrong choice before and thinking like, I have to be accomplished, or I have to be a certain version of myself before, I can let love in. It's like they had a checklist of things that they needed to do. And love was sort of further down on the list compared to like whatever they were working on when you encountered them, or what they had kind of maybe even felt compelled. You might have activated this person's like provider protector instinct, and there was a sense of sort of like what they had to give to you, or like what they could provide maybe in the past. It's like, I can do better than that. You deserve more than that. And so it's almost like they pushed you away so that you wouldn't settle for the version of them that they were. And there's a sense of almost like, I don't want that to be the case anymore. They've either accomplished something within or in their life that they're feeling a little bit better, or there's a sense of like, you ground me in a very practical way. You remind me what is truly important beyond, material success and opulence and all of that. You've accepted me and loved me, and you were attracted to me when I had very little to give to you, when I was still in a work in progress, or maybe even in a dark period of their life. It's like you saw the light in them that they struggled to kind of see within themselves, or it was almost like, okay, I need to push you away. I'm not good enough for you yet. And so there's a sense of like, they're wanting to come back around and almost like redeem themselves, or they feel or have again been kind of like, someone has maybe kind of like talked to them about this. Like, that's very noble to want to like show up as the best version of yourself. But if you find love, I'm hearing true love. So this may be something where this person is like, I think this is like the one, not just someone that I get along with and we're compatible with and they put up with me and, I'm really attracted to them. But this is something where it's like, this could be like a soulmate connection, or something where it's like, this feels deeper than anything I've ever known. This feels like that kind of idealized love, like the experience inside, and I've pushed this person away. That somebody close to them might have been like, if you find true love, that's the real treasure. That's something that if everything else in your life goes to shit and you have true love, you're the richest person in the world. And so this is something that has like clued this individual in, where they want to come back and redeem themselves. They don't want to wait. They don't want kind of the two of you to continue to go your separate ways. They don't want to, risk that somebody else kind of comes and swoops you up, because you are this person's wish fulfillment. And there's a sense of like, I want to, protect you from kind of like heartbreak and disappointment, because I know that I can love you right. And I didn't allow myself to do that in the past. I didn't think I was good enough, or, that you deserve more. And so there's a sense of like wanting to crack open those seeds of potential, and see if it's still possible to have something blossom out of what is like withered away out of this situation. They want to breathe life back into this. They want to come out of this sort of shadowy period, and work to like earn your trust, to get you to open up your heart to them again. So let's get a few of these message cards to see what they want you to know at this time, or just anything else as far as this idea about, reconciliation. Okay, and they say, when we were talking, things just come out of my mouth, and afterwards I'm not even sure why I said them. So there's a sense that this person feels that they can be their authentic self with you, and you don't judge them. You understand them in a way that other people don't. It's almost like you share a secret language with one another. This may be somebody who's used to being misunderstood by others, or that's been kind of an issue within previous romantic connections, is kind of like communication becoming, very scattered, or them having to kind of like watch what they say around other people. But it's like you get their brand of humor. You understand the way that their mind works, or the way that they process reality in a way that helps them to feel like, I am good enough. I am a person who is worthy of being loved and accepted as I am in this moment. So again, this speaks to somebody who wants to open up those lines of communication with you again. We also have, I'm seeing synchronicities like your name or 1111 and trying to work out what they mean. Yeah, so this is that energy of the mature man who is not kind of running from this deep kind of otherworldly connection that the two of you share, as might have been the case in the past. This is somebody that's like, hey, this keeps knocking at my door, you know, even in terms of those synchronicities. If it's been radio silence between the two of you, spirit has been very loud with them. There may be a lot happening in terms of dreams. They may dream about you very often as well. And there's a sense of like, they keep getting the green light or this nudge or this insistence in the spiritual realm to not let this opportunity pass them by. If you're single and you're available, it feels like this person is single, they are available at this point. It's like, okay, let's work with this as best as we can. Let's try to figure this out together because I want you, mind, body, and soul. And they also say, I've watched you change and grow so much. I am trying to release my attachment to identity so I can change too. Yeah, so this is somebody that is working to accept themselves as they are in this moment. Transforming from the idea of like a best version of self as like a fixed point on a distant horizon to I'm going to show up as best as I can every day. Like every day is a new day. And so if I make mistakes or I do everything perfectly, I did the best that I could. They want to work with that kind of an energy, more of like a mutable energy, in order to kind of evolve the way that they've looked at kind of goals and therefore their worthiness to receive wish fulfillment in life. And especially as far as like love or romance or this connection is concerned, they want to grow and evolve alongside you because they see that, you know, you're somebody that, yeah, there are times where you're up, times where you're down, times where things are good, times where things are bad, but you keep showing up. You keep kind of moving with the flow of whatever your life is demanding at any given point in time. And that's something that they really admire, they really respect. They feel that it's a very good kind of outlook or a good energy that can help them in this process as well of really making something of their life, reaching those larger goals, kind of creating a life that they don't need a vacation from, but something that they're very excited to live. So it feels like they have been watching, they've been keeping tabs on you, and the desire is increasing to break this silence, to kind of cut through that wall of silence, come out from the shadows and speak very directly to you about working things out, kind of healing any miscommunication that has happened, and really kind of giving this connection a chance to resurrect itself. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We have R, O, T, C, P, Y, V, U, P, Y, D, K, Q, V, and E. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Lapis Lazuli pyramid. So let's see, is this connection with the person on your mind over and done with, or is there the ability to reconcile with them? Is there more to this story between you? Okay, we have imprisonment, courthouse, and mature man. So this is the energy of somebody who is stuck within a very necessary karmic cycle within their life. There may have been some kind of karmic retribution that they've accumulated through actions, either in regards to, it kind of feels like how they might have treated you, or maybe this is something that was like a pattern for them, or just kind of their outlook on life, the way that they've kind of moved through life in some sort of way where there are like consequences that they're needing to face in order to bring themselves to like a crossroads moment in their life. Maybe this is rock bottom, having to start again, or having to break free from things where they've been like afraid to take risks, or, you know, follow their heart, or kind of do the right thing, that in some sort of way would cause them to be able to offer you something different rather than just the same disappointment you've experienced so far with this person. It's like they're getting a taste of their own medicine at this point in time, in different sorts of ways. And so it feels like something that the time is not right for the two of you to have like a positive impact upon one another. At this point, there may also be karmic lessons that you're needing to learn in your life, different experiences you're needing to have, different kind of karmic people you're either tasked to break free from, to transmute that relationship, or to try to create peace and healing, maybe even in circumstances from your past, people that you're dealing with presently, or people that you're about to meet and encounter, that are almost kind of like gatekeepers to accessing and unlocking a more empowered version of yourself, and like for them, in whatever way that looks like, to unlock a more empowered version of them. And so it feels like it's something that this is like your roads are diverging from one another, like have diverged from one another, but this may be somebody that like further in the future, the timing will be right. Like there'll be an ability to kind of come back around to one another, but it doesn't feel to be anything that will happen anytime soon, because there's different like choices that have been made, and you're for each of you, and you're kind of like living in the realm of consequence at this point. There's something where it's like that journey, you need to sort of see that through to completion for the two of you, in order to really be able to bring something more high vibrational to the table within this situation. Or else it's something that it feels like it's the type of circumstance that would just like hold the two of you back energetically. It would be something where you're still both maybe operating with a lot of resistance, a lot of toxicity within yourselves, or, you know, within kind of the nature of the lives that you're living in different ways, where it's almost like the ingredients are not all there, or the conditions are not ripe for success in this situation at this time. And so it feels like it's almost something that you're being kept at a distance from one another until there's an evolution beyond, or like lessons have been learned in other sorts of ways that then allow the two of you to have this ability to kind of circle back around to one another, and really be able to kind of like love and appreciate each other in a way that wasn't possible before, because you're needing to like learn to love and appreciate yourselves, or like increase your self-respect in some sort of way, in a manner that was not the case when you were dealing with one another previously. So let's see what else you need to know about this. Okay, we have grow wild, learn from the bees, and bear the truth. Gotta cover up the imagery on this one. So even the fact that I've had to like cover up this artwork here on this card, it feels like something that it's almost like the future is unknown within this situation. Like, is it possible to resurrect this connection? Because you're both going through something where it's like you're living within like long-term cycles of karma. These may be like karmic patterns that were set in motion even like a decade ago, that it's kind of like there's no way to sort of speed up the hands of time. You're having to both just sort of rewild yourselves or sit within that energy of lessons. You've touched bases with one another for kind of like a glimpse or a glimmer of something that has the potential to become like a higher level love, but it's almost like the two of you weren't operating in that higher level version of yourselves when you were dealing with one another. And so you've been thrust in these different directions, almost to kind of like alchemize certain wounds into wisdom, maybe work on kind of self-forgiveness, compassion for self, kind of taking wounds that, may have been kind of like the result of people that you've let into your life, or ways in which kind of you had lower standards and therefore low vibrational experiences encountered each of you. And there's the ability to have some kind of like resolution, something very medicinal that can happen in this situation. This may even be something in terms of like, you get some sort of closure, you get some sort of vindication. If this is something where it's almost like this connection kind of goes to seed in some sort of way. Like nature takes over the ruins of this connection. You each evolve into other people, and it may be something where like serendipitously you encounter one another, further down the road. This can be even, because we talked about those long-term cycles, this could be like a decade from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. You hear from this person again. You see this person. There's the ability to have kind of that conversation that needed to take place, that for some people, this is something, with that kind of like mature man that we had here, this may be something that like, as an older person, that's the season for this connection. That's the time where it's like, okay, this isn't the person I'm supposed to start a family with, or this isn't the person that, I'm gonna kind of be with for decades on end, but this might be like the last love. This may be something that like saving the best for last, coming together at a later period in time, when you've gone through kind of the ups and downs of life. You've taken those hits. You felt that sting of disappointment, the repercussions, the karmic cycles, the revelations that have happened, the way in which you've each been sort of forced to evolve into different versions of yourself, maybe even abandoning the idea of what a best version would look like, being humbled by life in various ways. Maybe this connection and what has happened is part of that humbling process, or that illuminating process of kind of what needs to be worked on, what needs to be healed. Feels like you and this person operate as mirrors for one another, or you're walking sort of like a parallel path of like a lot of lessons, a lot of karmic lessons, kind of getting hard experiences out of the way earlier on. And it may be that this is kind of the sweet reward for the two of you to have that peace, maybe even just the peace of closure with one another at a further period of time. But it feels like for the time being, like here in this moment in time, it doesn't really feel like this is something where coming back together, you'd be able to do anything more than just wound one another again. It'd be the same kind of familiar patterns that have been the case up to this point. But you're still very much, it's like for every lesson this person learns, or maybe things that you clear or you break through, it's almost like it refines an energetic connection between the two of you. You are healing a lot of the same things. You're having to sit within the same kind of suffering that may manifest in different ways. So this can speak to something where, maybe even for this lifetime, this is meant to just be something where you work in tandem in the higher realms. You may not hear from this person in the material world again, but they could be part of your like soul family, your soul tribe. For some, this is even like a twin flame connection, which with connections like that, there's no like guarantee that you're supposed to have a 3D relationship. It may just be that you create peace and resolution within those higher realms, and then you've fulfilled that kind of like soul contract with one another for this incarnation. It's almost like the good stuff, the healthy romantic relationship. That's something for like a future lifetime. In the here and now, you've operated as catalysts to one another. You've inflicted the deepest wound within one another, and then it is your task to kind of break free from that, to free yourself from that prison of whatever has been kind of the result of your experience with one another, the karmic implications of your dealings with one another, like whatever that looks like. There's a sense that this is something to where it's a never say never kind of circumstance, but it feels like for the time being that this is something that is a connection which is only able to be sustained in those higher realms, because where you're both at in the 3D sense, it's almost like there's a lot of kind of lessons or circumstances that don't allow for this connection to ground in material reality, because it would take you away from concentrating on like the work that you need to do to accept what you cannot change and to change what you can about your life. So let's get some message cards and see kind of what this person wants you to know, and anything else that sort of wants to come through about the idea of this. Like, is this connection over, or is there something more to the story? Okay, and we have, I'm realizing this connection is something special and worth treasuring. Yeah, so even though things have fallen apart between the two of you, you're in no contact, you've gone your separate ways, they hold a lot of energy of like regret that things have turned out this way. They hold a lot of energy of regret over bringing like turmoil into your life, kind of meeting you up to a certain point energetically or actually, and then turning the other way, maybe choosing a path of fear, pushing you away, or, different circumstances that have kind of mirrored certain triggers, a lot of shadows, a lot of fears that kind of came to the surface that caused them to act in a certain way, that there's a lot of regret that it's played out in that capacity. There's a sense that this person wishes that they could take back certain things that they have said, they could course correct and sort of take different actions, and then you'd be in a different place personally and also with one another, but all they can do is kind of just progress forward into the future. It feels that they think very highly of you and try to send like positive thoughts, good vibes. They hope that you're able to kind of heal or move beyond whatever has been sort of inflicted in terms of wounding in the situation, but they don't really feel like someone who at this point is kind of worthy to stand in your presence and offer like a very genuine apology, because there's still a lot that is kind of gumming up the works within themselves in terms of fears and triggers and patterns. It's like the idea of reaching out and reconciling with you, it feels good to a certain point, and then they get scared. There's a very clear line in the sand that has been drawn either by you or by them and their actions and things they said, and somebody's like, I'm not ready to cross that threshold yet, but I keep kind of coming up to the brink of doing so, only to kind of turn back around. They also say our inner children are crying out right now. We both need to comfort them and become the parents. Yeah, so this may be somebody that's trying to like reparent themselves. They're trying to scratch beneath the surface of kind of like, why did I push this person away? Why did I say what I said? Why did I do what I did? Why did I experience something so genuine with another person that is rare to find, that I still treasure? No matter what has been said, no matter what has been done, you still are a very precious person to them. And there's a sense that they recognize and acknowledge that their actions in the 3D do not reflect that truth that they hold inside. So this may be somebody that is, looking into getting counseling, trying to get self-help. There may be addictions that are a factor where they're needing to, get treatment for that, or just something within that could kind of be like the master of self-sabotage. They don't feel worthy of beautiful things, and so they ruin them when they encounter them. Or, this connection, this experience was very beautiful and they didn't feel worthy of it. And so they did their part to kind of tear it to bits. And so there's a sense that they acknowledge that they're not necessarily like a safe person at this point for you to invest your trust in. There's like, they can't bring you any guarantees at this moment. They still may be feeding into that place of woundedness within. And it could even be something where they might have checked up on you, kind of seen what you have going on in your life. They might have heard things through the grapevine, or they've like looked into you, kind of, done a little bit of detective work. They've been spying in some sort of way. And there's a sense that they feel very ashamed for kind of like what they've done in the past, what they've said in the past. And even kind of like the life that they're living now as compared to what you're doing. It's kind of like, okay, you've done the work. You've turned over a new leaf. You're healing. You're trying to thrive. You're trying to make do, you're trying to do the best that you can, and it holds them to the standard of like, I'm not good enough, or I don't want to come in and kind of derail all your progress. They also say, I feel you pulling away and it triggers my fears that you'll leave me for good. Yeah, so this is definitely somebody that has some abandonment wounds, has some kind of like issues that they need to work on within, where there's almost like the way in which they felt about you in the past made them uncomfortable with the idea of surrendering totally or trusting in this connection totally. And so they acted out of that place of the wounded inner child. And there's a sense that they acknowledge that on some level, but there's also this energy of like, I don't want to hold you back. I've already kind of created unhappiness within you. I've created unwellness within this situation. I've created hurt. I've given you trust issues. This may even be something where they feel like they've created trust issues within you towards other people romantically that weren't there before them, before this experience. So there's a guilty conscience that they have, and it's almost like all they can do at this point is kind of watch you move forward with your life. They still feel you, they still feel connected to you, but at this point they're like not ready to come forth and sort of do the right thing, give that apology, be very honest, or even kind of congratulate or applaud you for your own kind of personal growth, the ways in which you've healed and leveled up from this situation or your life in general. And so there's a sense that this person maybe in sort of like a heavy energy, a sad energy at this particular point in time. And there's a sense of almost like, it's better that I stay away because I would only sort of bring you down. I would only add kind of chaos to your life. And I don't want to do that to you again, or I don't want to do that to you even further than has been the case. So let's get some initials. This could be a first, middle, or last name, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got M, U, Q, S, A, I, N, H, E, G, J, F, and F. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well.